Welcome back to In the Shop. Today we're going to be checking the bearing clearance on the rods for the Lotus. We're going to do that with some of this plastic gauge here, and I'm not even going to have the piston on the rod. I'm just going to put the rod on and torque it, make sure that I've got the correct clearance before we go to an assembly process. We just had the crank milled. We just had the machine work done for the rod bearing, or rod journals, crank journals. Had a flywheel machine, all that. We've got new cylinder liners. We've got new pistons and rings. So we're going to be making sure everything fits over the next few days before we do final assembly of the engine. And this part is for the rods. So for this, we're going to be using some Royal Purple assembly lube. They're not a sponsor. I've had this bottle for a couple of years. Even though we're putting plastic gauge in here, I need some kind of lubricant on these bearings and journals to make sure that we're not damaging anything, since we just paid to have all the machine work done. And it doesn't take much for what we're doing. So I'm going to set this in like so I can torque it. And then I need a piece of plastic gauge. And I'm almost out. Luckily I have more. You can do this several ways. You can lay it across the main cap like that. You just want it to be straight across, so when these compress, that they get. The other good thing about a little assembly lube is it helps hold it where you want it. These are to be set at 85 foot-pounds. Just a little closer here. Now they're torqued. Now that we have torqued it down, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but there's the plastic gauge. So we are at there we go. I'm on the wrong distance here. So we are at about 1.5 thousandths. And let me flip back here to my reference. And we are to be between 1 and 3 thousandths in the plastic gauge static clearance. So between 1 and 3 thousandths, and we're about 1.5, so we're good as far as that goes. So it is safe to assemble this thing now that we've confirmed everything. So now we need to get this plastic gauge out of here. It's already off of here, the bearing side, but we need to get it off of the crank side. And you can do that with your fingernail, or I like to use a small plastic scraper. I like to use these plastic scrapers. They work pretty well, and there's no damage of them, or no chance of them damaging the crank, your journal, at all. So we know we're within range with the machine work, so we can be confident that we can put the engine block together, and we will do this same method during final assembly. We'll check all the mains, all the rods, and make sure they're all within spec before closing up the bottom end of the motor. I find it's best to use a good straight edge. Okay, so we have between a 1.5 thousandth and a 2 thousandth nip on that cylinder. We're going to check both sides, but okay. Now we're trying to set some ring gaps. Do that very easy, very carefully. Try to only take off a little bit at a time, and I watch the edges of the rings for heat. And then I deburr my edges. And I 3D printed these 95mm cylinder sleeves so I can push my rings down and get them even. The ring moves on you, reset it. But take the time to go each feeler gauge section until you find one that it is. So this one is 14 hundredths. And they're supposed to be between 10 and 23 hundredths. Not thousandths, hundredths. So we need to go just a little more with this ring. And I'm only doing one side at a time. A lot of people will take these and do this on the blade. I'm not in any hurry. So I'll just do one side at a time. And I'm always feeling for rough edges. I like to build mine to the fat side on the piston ring gaps. So we're going to see where we're at. I want to be around 20 hundredths. That's my preference. 18. All right, so that was 18 hundredths, so that one's good. Kind of right in the middle range. So you had 13 hundredths range to be in. I'm at 8. So I could stop there. I could go a little wider. This is a turbocharged intercooled motor with the charge cooler. So I would like my ring gaps to be a little fat. Just because as they heat up, they expand and they'll close the gap. And this motor will have quite a bit of heat to it. It can heat up quick. And but if you get too much gap, you'll get a lot of blow by. So I want it to be a little bit fatter than what I am. So I'm going to take just a hair more off of it, but I'm going to do it with the file. Still gonna have good compression with this and all. And it'll hold cylinder pressure. That was 1900s. Let's see if 20 is there, because that's where I'd like it to be. Okay, 20 will just go barely. Very snug. So that ring is ready to go on a piston. So let's get the next one. We are putting the pistons together. I've already gapped all the rings, and they're all over here sitting in order, so I know which one goes to what piston. So we're going to start assembling our pistons today, and if all goes well, maybe we can start putting more of the engine together. These can be a bear to get out of the plastic wrapper sometimes because of the oil and whatnot they have on them. And then we're going to be assembling them with some assembly lube. First things first though, we need to get our retainer clip into the groove. And these can be a pain in the butt. You only want to put a retainer on one side until you have all the pins in. Liberal amount of fluid on assembly lube on these journals. Make sure to have you a few rags on hand, good clean rags. Okay, so we take the rod and do the same thing on the rod bushing. Make sure we're putting a liberal amount of assembly lube in there because we definitely don't want to burn anything up. And then we very gently press it all the way down to the clip. And then we can insert the new clip. Make sure that clip is seated. Okay, now we have a connecting rod and piston assembled. Now we can put the rings on. There's different beliefs on whether you should use your assembly lube on the piston rings themselves. What I prefer to do is not put any on them at the time of assembly, and only put it on right before you're about to put it in the sleeve. I usually take standard motor oil and pour all around it and move the rings around and get them positioned where we want, but make sure there's oil in them. And then the first fire up, it's going to smoke a little bit, but it assures that you don't have a ring go bad. So as you can see, got the oil ring installed here. I'm going to rotate this to change where the gaps are. Okay, then we're going to go with the second groove. They're stamped with what way goes up. Just remember to be gentle. You do not want to snap a piston ring. So there is piston number 1 ready to go. Now it's good. So there we have 4 pistons assembled, ready to go in the block. The only thing they need is rod bearings to be installed, and they can be slid in the cylinders. So now we're putting the bearings in the rods, and I want to make sure to get it all caught on video, but I always wipe out the inside real good, make sure it's clean, that there's no debris, and then take the tab to the hole, set it in there, and push the other end down. It's pretty simple. Some people like to put a dab of assembly lube behind the bearing. It's not necessary. You can if you want. I'm not torquing these down or anything. I'm just making sure I can't lose bolts. I don't like to lose parts of the assembly. So again, I clean them out good with a clean rag. And when we go for final assembly, we'll lube everything really good, wipe it all out, plastic gauge it, make sure everything's on the money, because we don't want to build this motor more than once. These engines are very expensive to rebuild compared to a Chevy small block or an LS. If you know what you're doing, you can rebuild a LS for about 1,500 bucks. If you know what you're doing on a Chevy small block, you can rebuild one of them for about 1,100 parts and pieces. One of these is about $5 grand if you know what you're doing. But you have to do all the work yourself to get them in at that. Well, folks, that's it for this week's video. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if you did. I upload new videos each week, so come and check out my page. And thanks again for watching.